So let's say I unscrew the bulb that's lighting up this room, but only slightly enough that it breaks the flow of electricity between the wires and the actual bulb. But every time you just slightly wiggle it, it flickers on, lighting up the room so that you can see what the room looks like. So let's say that humanity is currently in a state where the light bulb is not making contact with the wires or the circuit, and so the room's dark. Anytime we get a flash of inspiration, or we're feeling a moment of heightened beauty or bliss, that's the light bulb going on, allowing you to see what the room looks like. Now, Ascension is just screwing the bulb in so that the bulb is constantly making contact with the wires, thus completing the circuit, thus allowing you to see the room. So me, for example, right now I'm in my room. If I were to unscrew the bulb, it would be totally dark, and if I were in here long enough, I'd forget that I'm in my room, in my house. But once I screw the bulb in, the light goes on, I can see the room again, and realize, oh yeah, I'm in my house, I'm home. And so this is a simple metaphor to explain the process of what Ascension is. And so, in a sense, it's a purifying of your belief systems, your emotions, your habits, anything in your life that's not in alignment with your highest potential. And so, by purifying our beliefs to see in such a way whereas if the light were on, we naturally initiate the turning on of the light. Ascension is literally learning to use your mind in a new direction. So let's say we're used to using it to go up and down, back and forth, left to right, but we've never really used it to look inside. And so this is where you can really awaken a new dimension of how to use your mind through this process of looking within, taking an honest look at what's there from an observer perspective, and then creating from a point of, well, do I want to keep this or do I want to get rid of it? Is it serving me to be a better person, or is it holding me back? And so as you let go of all things that are holding you back, for example, this is when you really start to climb higher, because you naturally have a tendency to want to elevate, and it's more of letting go of the things that are holding you down. And this is Ascension as well. So I like to refer to this new direction of using your mind as the fifth dimension. And the fifth dimension is all about the inner world. So we're constantly outwardly focused, and with our senses, our vision, we're constantly inputting information from the external world. Whereas when you're using a fifth dimensional perspective, you're observing the inner world. And so the inner is also responsible for the outer. So instead of depending on the external world for information or for the external world to give you things, you go within to create. And so you go from trying to do things through an external means to changing from the inside out. So say, for example, you have a film projector. This film projector shines a light through a film strip, which eventually goes on a screen. And the moving of these frames at a fast pace creates the illusion of movement. So this is a metaphor for the kind of reality we live in. And the way we're operating right now, being externally focused, we're living on the screen, thinking that what's happening on the screen is real life, not realizing that the source of the light, the film projector, is who we actually are. And we can choose where to shine, what frames to shine our light through. And so this is a fifth dimensional perspective. You're acknowledging your power, the power that you have on the inside to create your external reality. And so creating from that place gives you more control, and you become now, in a sense, the god of your universe. To me, it represents a sort of inner depth. Let's say you have a song, and you have your guitars, your pianos, your drums, but you have no bass line. Adding that dimension of depth, in a sense, adds to that bass line, so you have this fuller sound. So it's responsible for fulfillment. So Ascension is really about shifting from being externally focused to inwardly focused about how our lives are unfolding and how we're experiencing them. And being fifth dimensional is really about an attitude. It's a certain way of being, it's a state of mind. It's you claiming that role as creator of your life as opposed to being in survival mode thinking that you're the victim of this world. So one thing that the Path of Ascension shows you is that by familiarizing yourself with death, you shatter your ego and thus dissolve boundaries. Because by being okay with letting go of things, you acknowledge that they come from the source and eventually go back to it. And your acknowledgement of that is respect to that source. And so by being okay with letting go of things, you will then be blessed with more, because you can then handle it without having it get to your head. Because that's the problem in our world right now is there are a lot of people in power, but that power gets to their head and then they act from ego. And then it becomes about who has more, who has the biggest. Another way to look at it is like, say your inner child is the you that's free. The one that has no shame, is innocent, the one that believes in miracles and dreams. And that you exists in you and it comes out. In my case, for example, when I'm alone and I'm playing music or something, I'm a lot more free and I let myself go because I know there's no one around to judge me, and so I'm more expressive in my being. And so to fully merge with my inner child, it's about being like that as if no one were looking, but all the time in all areas of my life. And by doing that, I'm becoming free. Ascension is really just a liberation of all the things that are holding you down. And so by merging with that part of ourselves that is fearless, we can then fly. So this can be another way of anchoring the idea of shining your light. Shining your light really just means being your authentic self so that people can see it. And when people see that, they see that as a permission slip to be themselves as well. And then you're both on the same level and in the kingdom together, so to speak. So this is really all just a big game of believing things into existence. And the higher the vision or belief you can manifest, the higher the experience you're going to have. And so the more likely you'll feel like a god in heaven. See the relation? So now, the idea is to really stretch your imagination to think beyond how good you think it can get. So sure, we have this ideal of, oh yeah, if I had this, that would be great. Then I would be satisfied. But the idea now is to think beyond that. Well, let's say instead of just manifesting a whole bunch of money, I can think, okay, well, if I had a bunch of money, yeah, that would be nice, but how could it be better? Okay, well, I could manifest a bunch of money and be able to invest that into things that will generate more money and help people even. And so this is where you're really stretching your capability to manifest higher things quicker. And you're opening yourself up to receiving more. And so the universe will only ever give you what you think you deserve. And so by stretching your imagination and the potential of what you think you can have, you're more likely to have it. And it's just about, stepping into that attitude of, yes, I deserve it. I'm God, this is heaven, and I can create whatever I want. Everything is communication from the other side. So everything going on around you right now, although it looks seemingly meaningless, this is the inherent gift that life gives us. And so our job now is to be Adam in the garden and just assign meaning, assign names, so to speak. So for example, let's say a loved one or a friend of yours maybe comes to you and starts reacting from ego. Maybe they get really angry or upset or stressed out about something, and instead of looking at it as if it's, oh gosh, here we go again, by interpreting that or realizing that what they're doing is actually crying out for help, you giving them that help and seeing on that level elevates you. And then again, by doing that, you give the other person permission to rise up as well. And so instead of looking at problems or things as situations, circumstances that are negative as something that needs to be overcome or dealt with, or a problem or an annoyance, use it as a tool to go higher. You can call it ego strength, you can call it whatever you want. It's essentially using negative as an opportunity to ascend higher. And so by doing this in all areas of your life, even the tiny details, even like a random sound that goes off in the distance after you have a thought, you can program that to mean validation of the truth that you just realized. And so again, embracing that childlike innocence of being open to the many ways you can play with the universe, and that you can get this feedback. You're ascending, you're embracing that fifth dimensional direction using your mind. I'll give you an example. This one time I was living away from home, and some time had gone by since I'd last communicated with my mom. And so one day she calls me, and I'm just sitting there, it was late night in July, and I think it was Canada Day or something, because there were fireworks going off in the background. But I'm talking to her on the phone, and she's telling me this story of how terrible things are, and just everything that's going wrong and all these issues. And all I see in the distance is these fireworks going boom, 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 just really dramatic, and just it kind of made it look like it was making fun of what was going on in the conversation, right? And so that really made me laugh. And so in that moment, instead of being, oh my gosh, here we go again with this phone call, I was like, this doesn't have to be so bad. Maybe by me being in a good mood, I can actually do something to help, instead of just ignoring that. Or so the idea again is just any situation that might appear shitty, just try and make light of it. Either see how it's funny, see how it's useful, see how it's important, see how you can be compassionate, see how it's deep. Look at why this might be happening, and treat it as like a game as opposed to a burden. And so by doing this, you step into that fifth dimensional frequency, and you're no longer again being controlled by your environment. You're in control now, and then you can do something about what's going on. So eventually there will come a point where you start to experience more synchronous events in your life. Things start to just fall into place. Things happen easier. You just know what to do, when to do it, and you're constantly getting feedback and signs from the universe. And they always say that the things that lead to giant leaps in evolution are a series of profound events back to back. And so once you get into this flow of synchronicity and fifth dimensional energy, you begin to experience more and more, to the point where you'll just accelerate, and that's the full screwing in of the light bulb. You're just there. And so there's really no, and I don't say this to give you expectations, but this is what I think, something that will naturally happen as you ascend. So you can look at ascension really as just inheriting your throne, because you are the God of your universe. You just gotta accept that. You just gotta believe that. And even if you don't, you can manifest that. You can manifest anything that you put your mind to. So really, stretch your mind about what you think is possible. Stretch your mind about what you think you want and what you think you are. Really, because the more you can do that, the more you'll open yourself up to be more of who you actually are. And that's what Ascension's about.